My key slides into the lock and catches on nothing. I try again, twisting harder, but there's only the sound of metal scraping against metal. The familiar resistance is gone. I stare at the brass doorknob, uncomprehending, as if it might explain itself. That's not possible, I whisper, fumbling with the other keys on my ring. None fit. I try the side entrance. The same. The back door. The same. My briefcase slips from my fingers and lands with a thud on the brick path. Inside are the notes from my interview, the one that went surprisingly well, where they nodded at my ideas and smiled at my portfolio. "We'll be in touch, Miss Grant," they'd said, and for once, it hadn't sounded like dismissal. My phone nearly tumbles from my trembling hands as I pull it from my pocket. I tap my mother's contact, pressing the phone to my ear as my heart hammers against my ribs. It rings once, twice, a third time before clicking to voicemail. I try my father next. Straight to voicemail. A cold knot forms in my stomach. A chime breaks the silence. A text message. From Vivian. "You're not part of this family anymore. Don't come back." The words blur as my eyes fill. I sink down onto the garden bench where Grandmother Margaret taught me to stitch hemlines when I was 8. The roses she planted still bloom around me, pink and fragrant, oblivious to the fact that I've just become truly homeless. I close my eyes, remembering last night's dinner. The memory hits with painful clarity. "So the fashion fantasy still hasn't run its course?" Vivian had asked, cutting into her steak with surgical precision. "You know, if you're staying here, we should discuss raising your rent. 2,000 isn't covering your share of expenses." She said this knowing full well I had only $2,800 to my name. Mother dabbed her lips with her napkin. "Cordelia, maybe it's time to consider something stable. The real estate firm has always had a place for you. Just because my business didn't survive doesn't mean design isn't viable," I'd argued, fingers tightening around my water glass. "I just need time to rebuild." Father never looked up from his plate. The only words he contributed all evening. "Your sister knows business." The same sister who'd made partner at his firm while I was still trying to launch my own path in Atlanta. The sister whose opinion was gospel in this house. When I'd presented my digital marketing proposal for the family real estate business, I'd thought maybe, finally, they might see my value. "The world is changing," I'd explained, showing them mock-ups on my tablet. "Why not adapt? You're losing younger clients to agencies with stronger online presence." Vivian's laugh was like ice water. "This isn't New York, Cordelia. Stick to what you understand, which isn't much." She'd closed my tablet with a snap. The condescension in her voice had been the final straw. My hands, usually so quick to tremble during family confrontations, had stilled completely. I stood, surprising even myself. "I need some air," I'd said, voice steadier than I felt. "I'll be back tomorrow." And now, tomorrow had come. With new locks and a text message severing me from my family, I dial my parents again. And again. No answer. The realization settles heavy in my chest. They're siding with Vivian. Despite everything I've contributed to the household these past 3 months, despite the fact that I have nowhere else to go, I look down at my phone. My banking app shows $2,176 remaining after last week's expenses. Enough for what? 2 weeks in a cheap motel? 3, if I'm careful with food? The garden grows blurry through my tears. Grandmother Margaret would have known what to do. She was the only one who ever believed in my design dreams, who saw something in me beyond the disappointing daughter who couldn't follow the family path. But she's been gone 14 years now. For the first time since returning to Savannah, I allow myself to admit what I've known all along. In this family, I've always been alone. The next day, my phone chimes with another text from Vivian. I squint at the screen through swollen eyes, my thumb trembling as I swipe to read it. "Your stuff is boxed. Pick it up Saturday before 4 p.m. We won't be here." The motel bed creaks as I shift positions, the scratchy polyester comforter nothing like the Egyptian cotton sheets I'd slept on just yesterday. I open my banking app, muscle memory guiding my fingers to the shared home repair account. The balance that should read $930 shows 0. "That's not possible," I whisper, calling the bank immediately. "I'm sorry, Miss Grant," the representative explains with practiced sympathy. "Vivian Grant is listed as the primary account holder and authorized the withdrawal yesterday afternoon." Yesterday afternoon, while I was at my interview. I sink back onto the bed, the springs protesting beneath me. Simple math tells me I have exactly 11 days before complete financial collapse at current spending. The realization hits me like a physical blow. This wasn't impulsive. Vivian had planned this, probably for weeks. I glance around the dingy motel room with its water-stained ceiling and faded floral wallpaper. Just 12 hours ago, I'd been in our 3-story colonial, with its gleaming hardwood floors and crystal chandelier. Now I'm wearing clothes borrowed from the woman at the front desk, a faded t-shirt and sweatpants that hang loose on my frame, because I'd realized too late that my design portfolio, along with most of my wardrobe, remained locked inside the house. My fingers hover over Aunt Judith's contact. She's always been kind, if distant. Surely she'd help. Cordelia, honey, she answers on the 4th ring. This is unexpected. Aunt Judith, I need help. Vivian changed the locks and... Stop antagonizing your sister, dear, she interrupts, voice cooling. You know how Vivian gets when she's pushed. I try Uncle Robert next. This unfortunate situation with the house. He begins, clearing his throat awkwardly. Your father mentioned something. Perhaps you should consider moving back to Atlanta? One by one, relatives offer excuses, suggestions to reconcile with Vivian, or vague sympathy without actual assistance. Only Cousin Mark's response differs. That's messed up, he says plainly. I'd offer my place, but Lisa and I are in that one bedroom until September. Let me see what I can do. As I'm thanking him, an email notification appears. Edward Langford, attorney at law, regarding Margaret Grant Trust. I stare at it, fingers frozen above the screen, when another email arrives, this one from yesterday's interview. We're delighted to offer you the junior design position, contingent on portfolio review. Please present your complete portfolio by Friday for final approval. Friday. 3 days away. I check my bank balance again. $2,176. The motel costs $89 per night. My formal clothes essential for the portfolio presentation sit in boxes at a house where I'm no longer welcome. For the first time in my privileged life, I confront the reality that I might soon have nowhere to sleep. The weight of it all presses down on my chest. Perhaps my family has been right all along. Perhaps I should abandon this futile fashion career dream and take whatever job I can find. Waitressing, retail, anything with a steady paycheck. I curl onto my side, the unfamiliar pillow offering no comfort. Throughout my life, I'd faced my family's disapproval, their dismissal of my dreams, their constant pressure to conform, but I'd always had a roof, a bed, financial security. The basics I'd taken for granted now seem impossibly distant. My phone buzzes with a text from Mark. Grandma Margaret always said you were the true Grant. I'm with you. I clutch the phone to my chest, a single point of warmth in this cold reality. As I sat in that motel room, looking at my dwindling funds and the email from an attorney I'd never heard of, I wondered if I should swallow my pride and beg my family for temporary access to the house, or trust this mysterious message that could be my last hope. Sometimes, the hardest choice is between painful certainty and hopeful uncertainty. What would you do when the people who should protect you become the ones you need protection from? A day later, Vivian's latest Instagram post appears on my screen. A family dinner photo captioned, "Quality time with those who truly matter." Mother's pearl necklace gleams under warm dining room lights. Father raises a wine glass. Vivian smiles with the smug satisfaction of someone who's won. I toss my phone onto the motel bed as if it might bite. 3 days since the locks changed, and they're already erasing me. The family firm's website has scrubbed my name from About Our Family, as if I never existed. My phone chimes. Not family, the design director from yesterday's interview. Need to see portfolio by Friday. Several candidates in consideration. 2 days to produce what's locked in my childhood bedroom. My thumb hovers over the call button for Robert Channing, Dad's golfing buddy who runs the largest real estate office downtown. He's always said to call if I needed anything. So sorry, Cordelia, absolutely swamped this week, he says, voice tight with artificial regret. The local bank manager who's known me since I opened my first savings account at 12 suddenly can't discuss small loan options. Perhaps when your situation stabilizes, he suggests, eyes sliding away from mine. Vivian's been busy. The motel reservation clerk studies me with barely concealed pity. Sorry, ma'am. We're overbooked tonight. I sleep in my car, using rough design sketches as a makeshift pillow. The vinyl seat cracks beneath me whenever I shift. Streetlights cast harsh shadows across my dashboard. By morning, my neck feels like it's been twisted into a sailor's knot. At Marshall's, I reach for a basic blouse, something presentable for follow-up interviews, and freeze. The price tag might as well be $1 million. My chest tightens. Breath comes in shallow gasps. The fluorescent lights grow blinding. I stumble to a fitting room, sinking onto the narrow bench as panic wraps around my ribs like a vice. A store attendant knocks. "Everything okay in there?" "Fine," I manage, though nothing is fine. Grandmother Margaret's gold watch, her graduation gift to me, feels heavy on my wrist. Later that day, the pawn shop owner examines it under a magnifying glass. $350, he offers. I nod, throat too tight for words. That night, I spread motel stationery across the bed, sketching designs from memory. My hands move frantically, trying to capture what my portfolio already proved. The coffee grows cold beside me as dawn breaks, but it's done, and I send it via email. Later that morning, my phone lights up with a text from Caroline, my college roommate. "Heard you had some kind of breakdown? Vivian's worried about you. Call if you need help." Another erasure, my reputation. The motel room walls seem to inch closer every hour. I've calculated and recalculated my dwindling funds until the numbers blur together. When my phone rings with an unknown number, I almost don't answer. "Cordelia? It's Mrs. Kendall from number 14. Our elderly neighbor. I haven't spoken to her since Christmas. Your grandmother asked me years ago to watch over you," she says, voice steady despite her 87 years. "I've contacted Mr. Langford as instructed. Meet him tomorrow at 10 a.m. My breath catches. "Who's Mr. Langford?" "Margaret's attorney. She made me promise." A pause. "This isn't the first time your family has tried to push someone out, dear." On Friday morning, the law office occupies the third floor of a restored cotton warehouse. Edward Langford's wood-paneled sanctuary feels like stepping back in time. Sepia photographs of 3 generations of Savannah's historic district line the walls. He rises from behind a mahogany desk, hand extended. "Miss Grant, please sit." He's in his 60s, with silver hair and eyes that miss nothing. He studies me before speaking. "Your grandmother Margaret anticipated this day might come," he says, opening a leather portfolio. "She was quite specific about the circumstances that would trigger this meeting." My fingers curl around the armrests. "What circumstances?" "Being denied access to your family home." He slides a document across the desk. "According to this trust, established 14 years ago, you have legal right to reside in the Grant family home, regardless of others' wishes." The words blur before me. Trust, legal right, residence. There's more. His expression hardens. "The trust contained a creative fund of $145,000, designated solely for your design career. Records indicate your family has withdrawn $118,000 for," he consults another document, "kitchen renovations, master suite expansion, and a pool installation." The room spins slightly. "They took my money?" "Your grandmother's money, designated for you." "Yes." Tears spill before I can stop them. Grandmother Margaret knew. She saw through them when I couldn't or wouldn't. "I wasn't wrong about them," I whisper, gripping the armchair. Edward's associate, a young woman with kind eyes, brings tea and paperwork. "We can arrange an emergency withdrawal of $5,000 from the remaining trust funds today," she explains. As they outline legal notices and cease and desist orders, my phone rings. "Mrs. Kendall, I've made up the guest room," she says when I answer. "Margaret was my dearest friend. Stay as long as you need." The contrast hits me like a physical blow. My blood relatives dismissed and controlled me for years. These virtual strangers listen, validate, and offer concrete help without hesitation. I feel something shift inside me. My voice steadies. My spine straightens. For the first time since finding those changed locks, I feel solid ground beneath my feet. Edward prepares legal notices demanding the family cease unauthorized withdrawals and recognize my residence rights. The trust contains an enforcement clause, he explains, shuffling papers into a folder. If they've violated terms as trustees, which the evidence suggests, they can be removed. As our meeting concludes, he reaches into his desk drawer and withdraws a sealed envelope, slightly yellowed with age. "Your grandmother asked that you read this alone," he says, placing it in my hands. The familiar handwriting across the front, my name in Margaret's elegant script, makes my heart stutter. A message from beyond the grave, waiting 14 years to find me at exactly the right moment. Later that day, the trust documents spread across Mrs. Kendall's guest room dresser tells a story more revealing than any family photo album. I arranged them methodically, like pattern pieces for a garment, each one revealing another dimension of Grandmother Margaret's foresight. I still can't believe it, I whisper, running my finger along the declaration of ownership. The family home, the one I'd been locked out of, belongs to Margaret's trust, not my parents'. More stunning still is the clause guaranteeing residence rights to all direct descendants, at any time, without qualification. Edward's voice echoes in my memory. Your grandmother anticipated this scenario with remarkable precision, Miss Grant. The financial records reveal an even more damning truth. The creative fund Margaret established for me contained $145,000 money intended to nurture my design career. But bank statements show $118,000 withdrawn over the past 2 years. $42,000 for the kitchen renovation, $53,000 for the master suite expansion, and $23,000 for the backyard pool my father insisted they needed. My family hadn't just locked me out, they'd been systematically stealing from me. The remaining $27,000 is legally mine, along with potential restitution for the misappropriated funds. Edward's confidence rings in my ears. Your position is unassailable. The evidence of mismanagement creates a clear case for immediate remedy. For once, the trembling in my hands comes not from fear, but from a quiet, steady rage. My phone buzzes with an incoming email. From Vivian, naturally. A cease and desist letter claiming I'm harassing the family with false claims and demanding I cease all communication regarding fabricated financial matters. I forward it to Edward, who calls within minutes. This is perfect, he says, satisfaction evident in his voice. Your sister just triggered the trust's monitoring protocols. Any legal threats automatically prompt a full audit of the trust's assets and management. Later that afternoon, my parents' lawyer contacts Edward, his tone noticeably less confident. Oh, eyes. The family believes this matter could be resolved without formal legal proceedings. Edward recounts during our update call. They're suddenly interested in a family resolution. As if on cue, my phone lights up with my mother's name after days of silence. Cordelia. She begins, her voice honeyed with concern that never appeared when I was sleeping in my car. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding about some family decisions. Has there? I keep my voice neutral, remembering Edward's advice to say little and record everything. Your father and I never intended for things to escalate this way. Vivian perhaps overreacted. Each desperate backpedal strengthens our position. Each denial contradicts documented evidence. Each attempted manipulation adds another potential claim to our case. That evening, sitting in Mrs. Kendall's sunny breakfast nook, I stare at the settlement terms Edward has prepared. The list is straightforward. Purchase of a 2-bedroom condo in my name, a monthly stipend from the trust until I'm established professionally, an appointment of an independent trustee to oversee the remaining funds. Mrs. Kendall has provided a formal witness statement describing the day she saw me standing locked out of my home, along with verbatim quotes from my mother about finally getting Cordelia to face reality. Her testimony is damning in its simple, factual clarity. My phone pings with a message from Cousin Mark. A screenshot of the family group chat I was removed from weeks ago. Howard, is this getting out of hand? Vivian, she had her chance. Getting rid of Cordelia was necessary. Elaine, let's not put things like that in writing, dear. Edward adds emotional distress to our claims after seeing the messages. This demonstrates clear intent, he explains. The family's first counteroffer arrives. A small apartment for 6 months and $10,000 to start fresh elsewhere. Edward rejects it, without consulting me, as instructed. Their second offer extending the apartment lease to 1 year and $15,000 meets the same fate. With evidence of my family's betrayal in my hands, I wonder, should I push for full financial restitution and public accountability, or seek a quieter settlement that would let me start fresh elsewhere? Sometimes justice and peace pull in different directions. Before I can decide, my father calls from his personal line, not the house phone Vivian might monitor. Cordelia. His voice sounds older than it did 3 weeks ago. This situation has gotten out of control. Has it? I echo the same words I used with Mother, but my tone carries more confidence now. Your sister. He hesitates. Vivian doesn't always understand how her actions affect others. It's the closest he's ever come to criticism of his favorite daughter. The local real estate community, small and tightly connected in Savannah, has begun asking questions. Two of Father's colleagues have reached out to me directly, expressing concern about troubling rumors regarding my abrupt departure from the family business and home. Edward schedules a meeting at his office. All parties will be present. The final confrontation looms. I notice something else. Vivian's Instagram, usually showcasing daily evidence of her perfect life and family harmony, has gone conspicuously quiet. No more artfully arranged family dinners. No more quotes about the importance of loyalty. The cracks in their facade are beginning to show. For the first time since being locked out of my childhood home, I sleep through the night without waking. Tomorrow we face them together, me, Grandmother Margaret's letter, and the truth. On Saturday, the settlement offer sits on Edward Langford's polished conference table like a snake coiled to strike. My mother's smile appears brittle as she slides the manila folder toward me. Father checks his watch for the third time in 15 minutes. Vivian, dressed in a charcoal suit that screams authority, has rehearsed her apology until it sounds almost sincere. We understand there's been a misunderstanding, Vivian says, folding her hands. That's why we've prepared a generous offer. I flip through the papers, feeling heat rise in my chest. A 1-year apartment rental, a $15,000 payment. A gag order preventing me from discussing family matters publicly. This offer expires today, Father adds, his voice flat. After that, we'll contest everything. Mother leans forward, patting my hand with false tenderness. Cordelia, darling, it's for the best. Your grandmother was not entirely herself when she created that trust. My fingers clench the paper, crinkling its crisp edges. Not herself? You know how she was near the end, Vivian says, her voice silky with concern. Confused, paranoid. And consider your career, Mother adds. A public fight would be devastating for your reputation in the fashion industry. People talk. Edward shifts beside me, but I raise my hand slightly. Not yet. First, I need to do something I've been waiting for. I reach into my bag and withdraw the sealed envelope Edward gave me days ago. The paper feels warm, as if it holds life within its folds. I break the seal, my fingers trembling not from fear but anticipation. The letter inside bears my grandmother's elegant script, dated 6 months before her passing. My dearest Cordelia. I read aloud, my voice strengthening with each word. If you're reading this, then the day has come when you've been turned away from this house. Remember, it's not your fault. Mother shifts uncomfortably. Father studies his folded hands. Your talent shines brighter than any in our family, and that light has always threatened those who prefer shadows. When this happens, not if, but when contact Mrs. Kendall at number 14 and my attorney, Edward Langford. They have everything prepared. I look up from the letter, meeting Vivian's narrowed eyes. Your family will try to convince you that I was confused, perhaps even unbalanced. This is their fear speaking. I've arranged protection for you that they cannot dismantle, though they'll certainly try. Father clears his throat. Cordelia. I'm not finished, I say, surprised by the steel in my voice. Trust yourself as I trust you. Your vision will carry you further than their small ambitions ever could. With love that transcends even death, Margaret. I fold the letter carefully, placing it on the table. Grandma Margaret didn't just love me, she knew all of you. Edward stands now, laying out a portfolio of evidence with methodical precision. Financial records demonstrating $118,000 withdrawn from Miss Grant's creative fund. Renovation invoices for the kitchen, master suite, and pool all signed by Vivian and Howard Grant. Witness statements regarding the lock change and Miss Grant's subsequent homelessness. Vivian's face flushes crimson. These documents are misleading. They're quite clear, Edward replies, as is the trust language. The conference room feels charged with electricity. My family clusters on one side of the table, their faces ranging from defiance to dismay. On my side stands Edward, with Mrs. Kendall seated nearby, her presence a testament to grandmother's foresight. I place Margaret's letter at the center of the table. My grandmother predicted this exact moment, I say, tapping the paper. She knew you'd turn against me because I refused to become what you wanted. Mother interrupts. Cordelia, you're being dramatic. Miss Grant has the floor. Edward cuts in firmly. I straighten my spine, feeling decades of suppressed anger rising to fuel my words rather than diminish them. I don't want the house, I say, watching their expressions shift from certainty to confusion. I want what's mine, and complete separation from all of you. I slide forward the counter-proposal Edward prepared. 2-bedroom condo purchased with my remaining trust funds. Independent trustee appointment to prevent further financial misconduct. And no further contact between us. No contact? Mother whispers, her hand fluttering to her throat. That's absurd, Vivian snaps, but her voice lacks its usual authority. She snatches the document, scanning it rapidly, her expression changing as understanding dawns. You can't possibly. Your actions triggered the trust's protection clauses, Edward explains. By attempting to disinherit Miss Grant completely, you activated provisions that actually strengthen her position. Vivian turns to father, expecting support, but he surprises everyone by sighing deeply. We should accept these terms. Howard, Mother gasps. Enough, Elaine, he says, sounding suddenly tired. We've done enough damage. Vivian's control visibly shatters as she realizes her power play has backfired completely. Her mouth opens and closes, finding no words that can reverse what she's set in motion. I stand, gathering my grandmother's letter. You have 2 days to consider. After that, Edward will proceed with removal of all current trustees and file for full financial restitution. They'll sign, Edward assures me later as we exit the building. Refusal means public exposure and significant financial penalties. I nod, but my thoughts are elsewhere. Do you think there's any chance for healing? With my family? Edward's expression softens. That's not a legal question, Miss Grant. The following afternoon, I visit the cemetery alone. The autumn air carries the scent of chrysanthemums as I kneel beside Margaret's headstone. I place my hand against the cool marble, feeling strangely at peace. You saved me, I whisper, the letter clutched in my other hand. Not just financially. You saved who I am. I've con of the saved. I was letter-like the potential. The breeze rustles nearby trees, and for a moment, I swear I feel her hand on my shoulder, steadying me as she did when teaching me to sew my first straight line all those years ago. 3 months later, I stand in the center of my new condo, morning light streaming through windows I chose myself. The walls that once stood bare now showcase my design sketches, bold strokes of emerald, ruby, and amber that breathe life into the space. What's missing speaks volumes. No family photos, no Grant real estate plaques, no constant reminders of paths not taken. My fingers trace the edge of my drawing table, a small indulgence from my paycheck at Harlow Design Studio. Last night, I slept without the familiar knot of tension between my shoulder blades. No explanations needed for staying up late sketching. No justifying my career choice over breakfast. Just my own rhythm, my own choices. The acceptance letter from the studio sits beside my coffee cup. Junior designer position, modest salary, unlimited potential. My portfolio recreated from memory and enhanced with fresh concepts earned me not just a job but genuine appreciation. Your perspective is exactly what we've been missing, Mr. Harlow had said, no hint of condescension in his voice. Before I begin work each morning, I read Grandmother Margaret's letter. What once brought tears now infuses strength, like thread reinforcing a seam. The doorbell rings, unexpected and unwelcome. Vivian stands in the hallway, wearing the same dismissive expression she wore the night she changed the locks. Her tailored gray suit contrasts with my paint-splattered work shirt. For a moment, we're frozen in a tableau that feels strangely familiar. The family thinks we should talk, she says, voice clipped and professional, as if this were a business negotiation. 3 months ago, I would have invited her in, desperate for reconciliation. My hands would have trembled as I made coffee neither of us wanted. I would have apologized for things that weren't my fault. I have nothing to discuss with you, I say, my voice steady as a ruler against fabric. Her eyes widen slightly, the only indication that my response has surprised her. She reaches into her purse and pulls out an envelope, a birthday card, unsigned. Mother thought you might want this. I notice what she doesn't say, that she thought of me herself, that she misses me, that she regrets what happened. The silence between us contains all the words she cannot bring herself to speak. Give her my thanks, I reply, then close the door without taking the card. No trembling, no doubt, no desperate need for approval that had defined our relationship since childhood. Later that evening, Laughter fills my small living room. Mrs. Kendall's eyes crinkle as she tells stories about grandmother Margaret in her 20s. Edward raises his glass in another toast, his normally serious face relaxed. Cousin Mark sprawls on my sofa alongside two colleagues from the design studio who have become friends rather than just co-workers. I have an announcement, I say, heart racing with excitement rather than fear. I'm launching my own label alongside my studio work. I'm calling it Margaret's Thread. Glasses rise around the room, and Mrs. Kendall dabs at her eyes. To the ties that strengthen rather than bind, Edward offers, and everyone drinks. 6 months later, I stand in the corner of the Regional Fashion Expo, watching as buyers and locals alike examine my first small collection. Clean lines with unexpected details, hidden pockets, reversible elements, vintage-inspired fasteners that grandmother would have appreciated. An editor from a New York showcase approaches with her card. A local business magazine has requested an interview about emerging designers. The woman from Harlow Studio nods approvingly at the crowd gathering around my display. Above my design table at home, Margaret's vintage sewing scissors rest in a shadow box, catching light whenever I look up from my work. They remind me of her final gift, not just financial security, but the courage to cut away what doesn't serve. Sometimes, the people who love you most prepare an escape for you before you even know you'll need it. As I prepared for my first major showcase, I wondered if I should invite my family, whether healing begins with separation or tentative reconnection. Some say family deserves endless chances. Others believe chosen families matter more than blood. What would you do? Maintain the boundary that protects you, or open a small door to those who once closed theirs?